Yo, Geek Corner members, we are back, and we are back with the finale of Unbreakable X-Men number 3. Now, did it end as I predicted? Did someone come back to life? We're going to jump into that, and I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach to this. Yo, what are we waiting on? Roll that intro, cuz. Yeah. What's going on, Geek Corner? This is your boy, Earthsmack, the Mad Scientist, and welcome back to the Orange Phoenix Media channel. So today, we're going to cover Unbreakable X-Men number 3, the finale, when it comes down to the Age of Revelation as far as this story is concerned. And just like with the intro, I'm taking a little bit of a different approach because there's some things I want to sound off on, especially Age of Revelation in totality and some gem of the books that was within Age of Revelation. So let's get into it. So I will say this, when it comes down to the Age of Revelation event, I think there's a great number of people that didn't really ask for this. They didn't really ask for Age of Revelation. They didn't want any of this. Like, I think in totality, or as a majority, I say totality, but I'll say as a majority, that a lot of people just rather had Jed McKay's run of Adjectiveless X-Men, Gail Simone's run of Uncanny X-Men, and Moreira's Storm to continue instead of just stopping and, full cold-blooded stop and then go straight into Age of Revelation. I think people were anxious for this event to be over so we can get back to the status quo and like, hey, let's just build more storylines based off this. And I'm not a huge fan of events, especially how it's being advertised, especially lately. When it came down to DCKO, right? When DCKO came out, we were misled when it came down to how the brackets was going to be run. And it turned me completely off of the whole event. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of ready for the event to be over so we can get back to the regularly scheduled program. Same rule applies to Age of Revelation. I wouldn't say it was misleading. I would definitely say it was underwhelming, like as a majority. Because one of the things, though, I don't like about big events is that you get a whole slew of books that you got to get that are tie-ins if you don't know the full story of Age of Revelation. And it's been a lot. It's been a lot of books, right? So I don't know what Marvel was thinking that, okay, the average consumer can get all of these books and read all of these books and be happy about it. Nah, because especially around Christmas time and going into the new year, and I know it started before Christmas, that's a lot of books to buy. On top of the other books that you might want to read, on top of the DC stuff that you want to read, on top of the indie comics that you want to read. But what I will say, though, there are a couple books that were gems within Age of Revelation and were separate stories, one of which was Unbreakable X-Men number 3, or Unbreakable X-Men in totality, because when you read issues 1 through 3, it feels like it's completely separate from what's going on with Age of Revelation or the Book of Revelation. So from that standpoint, I would definitely say with this book, it carries the same energy as Uncanny X-Men, just like Rogue Storm. Like those two books were my favorite books out of this whole thing. The other thing is, if you're going to have an event, give these writers time to cook. Give these writers time to flambe and bake so things can come out to perfection. Let them come out to flesh out the story so they can get the story that we will love and enjoy. Because you can clearly tell in issue number 3 that there was a little bit of rushing involved. Like there was a lot of buttons that need to get, put in there. There's a lot of, loose ends that need to get tied up, and Gail tied it up the best way she could. I feel like this needed an extra issue to flesh out more of the story because, it went from one page to the other, and it felt like it was so immediate when it came down to Rogue being resurrected. Yeah, I know Death Dream, sacrificed his eternal life, and there was like an equivalent exchange kind of thing like Full Metal Alchemist. But it was like 1 minute she's gone, next minute she just pulled up and stomped, and then she just ended Shuvrak. Like it was a wrap at that point. We don't know what happened with Namor. It doesn't expand on that, and that's, to me, that's not the fault of Gail Simone. I feel like you try to end it the best you can. You try to end it on a happy note, and it did end the way I predicted it. I did predict that Rogue was coming back. Like Rogue was just on a temporary hiatus, especially going up against Galactus, and the fact that Gambit was ready to go, like he was ready to do his last ride. You know what I mean? Especially going up against someone the likes of Namor, the Submariner, or the first mutant. It's in his home turf of Atlantis. So yeah, that definitely was a tall order for Gambit, especially being blind. You know what I mean? So yeah, he did held his own against Namor, and again, we didn't get any expansion on what happened between Namor and Shuvrak, and why wasn't Shuvrak paying attention to what Namor was doing, or vice versa. Or why Namor wasn't paying attention to Rogue walking around as Galactus and smacking Shuvrak up. So we didn't get that. But again, I don't fault that with Gail Simone, because I feel like Marvel, with a lot of these other stories, because a lot of these other stories are 3-issue stories, there's a lot of story to be told and wrapped up in 3 issues. Like, that is a lot to do. And there's been times in history where you read some comics, you're like, dang, I felt like they really wanted to expand on this further, but they had no other choice but to end it. And I think that's really what it was. So overall, I would definitely say I enjoyed this book. Anything Gail Simone writes, I'm definitely enjoy. I know, just by guesstimation, she didn't have her time to actually cook and let this thing simmer, because I feel like it needed one more issue to make it like a full, complete story. But 3 issues is wild work. 3 issues is wild work. And I'm anxious to see what will happen with Rogue Storm number 3. How will that end? Will it have that same vibe where, there's a rushed ending? And, I emphasize this more, like with editorial and everything else in between. Yeah. You got to give the writers grace when it comes to that. Like, if you want them to flesh out a story, especially with Age of Revelation, let them flesh that thing out. You know what I'm saying? Yes, it was a separate story altogether. And there's some stories out there that just, not worth reading. Not saying that it was bad, but, it's with the whole slew of books that was out for Age of Revelation, it's hard to keep up. It's definitely hard to keep up. Trust me when I tell you this, I tried. But the interest that I had in it was not there, because I know the writers was going to get rushed into an ending, and you're not going to get that satisfaction like you're going to get. Now, with these other books that's coming out after Age of Revelation, Cyclops solo run, which is temporary solo run, Magic in Colossus, I think it's Inglorious X-Force or something like that. Like, I'm anxious to read those books because it's out of Age of Revelation, and I'm anxious to get Cyclops solo run, because I definitely want to cover this on this channel, and hopefully that first issue will just knock it smooth out the park. And I'm very much anxious to go back into Storm, right? Go back to Storm's solo run. And I'm also ready to get back into some Uncanny X-Men. Uncanny X-Men in totality has been a great book, right? You introduced the Outliers, you got attached to those new mutants that's in Louisiana, and you saw their growth, especially the relationship between Calico and Jitter, and especially what Gambit said, like, listen, this world is too cold to be out here alone. Like, share it with someone and things will be a lot easier. And he's speaking on the fact that he lost Rogue, and Rogue was his balance going through life. So I do love the relationship with the Outliers. I do love the relationship with the X-Men training the Outliers, which they are all X-Men at this point. They are a family. And I do like that fact. And let's just get back to that. Let's get back to that Uncanny X-Men goodness, man, the mentorship and the growth, whatever, whatever the case may be, because after Age of Revelation ends, the future, will not be written the same exact way. And let's put a pin in some time travel, okay? Let's not do any more time travel for a while. But, Marvel, I'm telling you, no more time travel for a while, okay? Like, let that marinate over here for like at least 5 years. You know what I mean? Give us a continuing story as far as what's going on. Let's leave this time travel stuff alone. But overall, though, Unbreakable X-Men was a very good book. And my only critique is it needed one more issue, just one more issue, just to flesh that thing out, just to see what happens. But this was a fun book to read. I mean, you get to see Gambit's grief, you get to see Gambit's growth, you get to see Gambit's, redemption story, and he get his love back, and it had a nice little happy ending. So, which is crazy because it's Age of Revelation, things are supposed to be bleak. And Unbreakable X-Men, nah, they got their happy ending because they stayed the piss up out of the way of the main story. So overall, but you already know what to do. Hit that like and subscribe button and that notification bell, because when you hit that notification bell, you get notified on all of our content, live or recorded, once you select all in the drop down box. So see you guys next time. Peace.